1. Sanitation and hygiene practices are influenced by people's attitude and awareness towards it. But in Indian society, traditions also influence sanitation practices. As an administrator, what challenges you will face in changing people's attitude towards sanitation and how will you change such attitude? Evaluate merits and demerits of your options. 1. Sanitation and hygiene practices are influenced by people's attitude and awareness towards it. But in Indian society, traditions also influence sanitation practices. As an administrator, what challenges you will face in changing people's attitude towards sanitation and how will you change such attitude? Evaluate merits and demerits of your options. 1. Sanitation and hygiene practices are influenced by people's attitude and awareness towards it. But in Indian society, traditions also influence sanitation practices. As an administrator, what challenges you will face in changing people's attitude towards sanitation and how will you change such attitude? Evaluate merits and demerits of your options. Greater than attitude is an important guide to people's actions. Awareness further nudges people to take appropriate action. Hence, the two factors are quite important in determining sanitation and hygiene factors. In the case of India, tradition also plays a dominant role. The reasons are manifold. A. Tradition influences attitude. B. India is still mostly a traditional society. C. Indian tradition considers defecation to be an impure activity and hence it is performed outside homes by many. As an administrator, it is important to change this attitude stemming from traditions and otherwise, to bring in substantial improvement in sanitation and hygiene conditions. Challenges. 1. Resistance from fundamental traditionalists. 2. Vested interests may prefer poor health outcomes. 3. Lack of adequate facilities for people to actually adopt the change. Some of the possible ways are: 1. Persuasion, through actions of role models, religious and social leaders, advertising, etc. Merit, this is more likely to be emulated by people. Demerit, attitudes is unlikely to change. Mere emulation won't last long. 2. Awareness and information dissemination, proper and regular discourse on the benefits of practicing good hygiene practices and harms otherwise. Merit will produce long-lasting changes as deep-rooted beliefs are addressed. Demerit will take time to result into actions. 3. Social influence. Upon achieving some success, the society itself would nudge its members to adopt better hygiene. Merit. Success rate would be higher as they have to live within the society after all. Demerit may result in forced change. For better health outcomes, better sanitation and hygiene practices need to be practiced. I would try a combination of the above mentioned 3 ways. This could result into observable changes. In Indian context, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is the way to go and persistence is likely to yield results. Attitude is the predisposition of people regarding a particular subject. In India, the performance of any initiative is dependent upon the attitude and awareness of people, which in turn is most often influenced by transitions. This holds true for sanitation and hygiene practices in India. As an administrator, I'll face the following challenges while implementation sanitation and hygiene improvement schemes. 1. Lack of openness and acceptability of people towards novel practices. 2. Bias against newer practices. 3. Feeling that the practices are against customs, tradition, religion for entrenched idea of purity associated with certain practices, such as not keeping the toilet within the walls of a house. I'll take the following steps to improve the situation. 1. Hold discussions with panchayats and villagers and try to persuade with positive points. This may take some time and people may not get convinced. To show them movies and documentaries that highlight the benefits. People may take it as a work of fiction and may not follow in reality. But it may work in certain cases. E.g., the village in Haryana has decided to marry its daughters only to families with toilets. 3. Give examples of people from their community, villages who have improved in sanitation practices and how their quality of life has been improved. This will have a positive effect as people are likely to follow their example. 4. Levy minor fines to nudge the people towards social change. E.g., some centers in Odisha and Maharashtra have started levying fines to the extent that ours. 52,500 for open defecation. This requires proper enforcement for succeeding. 5. Continue usage of groups to monitor people's practices by surprise visits, e.g., morning groups to prevent people from engaging in open defecation. Cleanliness is equal to godliness. This phrase needs to be preached in a traditional society like India. With constant and continuous efforts, good sanitation and hygiene practices will be supported.